Good evening, everybody. The kids are in bed. I thought I'd squeeze in another episode of the Good Timekeeping Show. Now, you probably already saw the video description, so you know this is another watch review, so let's go for it. Okay, let's open up our watch case once again and check out this one right here. This is the Casio G-shock GW7900 digital watch. So let's cover the main functions and features of this watch. First of all, it's a tough solar watch by Casio. That means there's a solar cell built in around the readout of this watch. And so the solar cell will automatically charge a battery inside the watch, and with any luck, you won't have to worry about changing batteries for many, many years to come. That rechargeable battery is going to last a long, long time. The first Casio Tough Solar watch I bought is 12 years old, and I've never had to worry about the battery. It always charges itself. So I'm expecting similar performance from this watch here. Along with that, there's Multiband 6. So that means it's got atomic timekeeping built into the watch. What happens is there's actually a radio receiver built into the watch, and every night starting at midnight, it starts to try to receive atomic time information from any of 6 atomic time transmitters from around the world. So in my case, I'm in North America, and this is set to receive from WWVB, an atomic time transmitter out of Fort Collins, Colorado. But if you happen to be in Japan, there are 2 atomic time transmitters in Japan, and this can receive from those. Also, there's one in China, there's one in the UK, and there's one in Germany. So in areas close to those, close enough, I should say, to those transmitters, you can receive automatic updates on the time, and this thing will always remain accurate to within fractions of a second. If you're in an area of the world that's a little too far from those transmitters, it'll just run as a regular quartz watch, and it'll be about as accurate as any quartz watch, but you get that bonus of atomic timekeeping if you happen to be close enough to those transmitters. Another thing that sets this apart from your average digital watch is it has a tide readout here that's going to show you when the high tide and the low tide are occurring. And this actually shows you the moon phase right here in this little window here. You've got kind of this animated pie thing going on, so every second a slice of the pie either appears or disappears. There are 10 slices that correspond with the seconds readout down there. Okay, some of the other modes you're going to have on this watch, if I press this button here, switch to another mode. Now this is the mode where it shows you the tide. Now by default, when you go into this mode, it's always going to start at 6 a.m. If you use these buttons here on the right side, you can scroll ahead and find out how the tide is going to change. So according to this, 10 a.m. you're going to have high tide, and if you keep scrolling, looks like somewhere around 11 p.m. you're also going to have a high tide according to this. Then if I push this button on the upper left, it's going to tell me what phase of the moon we are in now. And again, I can scroll ahead by 1 day actually and start looking at the different phases of the moon, and you can see how that changes. So when you get up to about a 29-day cycle for the moon, now it'll be on day 29, that's a new moon. So you see it's all kind of blacked out there. And then you go ahead, keep going. And when you get up to around day, I guess 14 or so, that'll be a full moon. So you see how that corresponds to the setting that you've got there. All right, the next setting is the world time mode. You can select any time zone from around the world. In this case, I've got it set to UTC. But if I use these buttons here, use the bottom button, it's like I'm scrolling eastward on the map and choosing other cities and showing the time in those time zones. So each time zone is kind of named after a major city in that time zone: Singapore, Hong Kong, these different time zones here. And then if I push this button on the upper right side, it's as though I'm going back westward on the map through the time zones. And if I get kind of lost in there, if I push these 2 buttons on the right side simultaneously, that is going to automatically take me back to the default UTC Greenwich time. So yeah, and I kind of like how it also shows you the date in that time zone. So if it happens to be a different date than your home time, it's going to advance there. See, when I got past midnight, it advanced to the next date there. So push this mode button again, and the next mode is the alarm mode. So for this one, you have, this hourly signal. So it beeps every hour on the hour when this is turned on. In addition to that, you have 4 alarms that go every day. So you can set those 4 alarms on or off, whatever time you want. And the 5th alarm is a snooze alarm. So when you utilize this one, what's going to happen is the snooze, the alarm goes off at the time you've chosen. And then it goes for about 10 seconds. It'll go again 5 minutes later and 5 minutes after that, and keep going until the 7th time. That'll be a half an hour after the first time it went. And that's how it goes. It'll do that every day. And so you get 7 chances to snooze there for 5 minutes when you set the snooze alarm on that. The next mode is the stopwatch mode. So I like this one because it'll actually show hours, minutes, seconds, and hundredths of a second. So I'll turn that on. And as it's going, you can see that every second, this little pie kind of has this animated feature here. So for every 10th of a second, a slice of the pie is either appearing or disappearing on this display. If it goes all the way to 24 hours, it'll reset to 0 and keep going. So, you can time things that last more than 24 hours, but then you'll have to keep track of how many days that is, and the watch will continue to track how many hours, minutes, and seconds that is. It's got a lap feature on that as well, or split time. And then, of course, you stop it and you can reset it. And those, how you do that, those controls are marked here. Split, reset, start, stop. The buttons are marked. The next mode is the countdown timer. So you can set that for however many hours and minutes you want. And you just start and stop right there. You can go all the way up to, you can have it as low as just 1 minute that it's counting down, or as high as 24 hours that it's counting down. And the way you set it for a full 24-hour countdown is, let's see, let me reset it there, and I'll press this adjust button over here. And if I just take this down so that it starts at 0, that's actually the true 24-hour countdown. So I can do that. And again, this little animated pie is doing something corresponding to the countdown. Okay, next. Okay, we're back in regular timekeeping mode. Now, when it comes to the automatic reception of atomic time, right up here, you can barely see, there's just a few segments of LCD there to indicate that you had good reception, strong reception last time you received atomic time information on this watch. Also, if I push this button down here on the lower right, just like that, it'll show me the last time it was able to get atomic time information. Oh wow, my watch is all just beeped synchronized. Okay, so this will tell you the last time you were able to get atomic time information, and that's just a few minutes ago because I did it manually. If you want to manually initialize your atomic time reception instead of waiting for it to do it automatically overnight, what you need to do, first of all, you got to make sure that your countdown timer is not running. For some reason, when the countdown timer is running, atomic time reception is not available. So now that I've stopped that, I'll go back to my, this is my default timekeeping mode. If I go down here and I hold this button down on the lower right, just hold it down for a couple seconds. Now I have initialized reception. That's RC, meaning it's trying to receive atomic time information. And right there it says L1. So level 1 reception quality, that's not the best. What you're looking for is L3. And I'm afraid that since I have all this video gear and lights and stuff turned on, I'm probably making reception a little bit difficult. So, but this is one way to make sure you can get, set the watch up in a good spot for reception. If you find a place where you can get an L3 on here, or generally overnight, as long as you're not wearing the watch, you've got it in a quiet place near a window, you should have no problem getting reception. Oh, look, it's trying, it's really trying, but probably going to have a little bit of a hard time because of all this gear that's running at the moment, making radio reception difficult. Another thing you can do, if you just tap that button instead of initializing atomic time reception. It just shows you the last time it happened. Now if I go up and hold this adjust button down, it will allow me to turn off the automatic radio control. So I can go in here and select off if I want. And so then it won't automatically try to do that overnight, but I would rather leave that on so it tries to automatically adjust itself overnight. You have that option to turn it off. Now, when you first get the watch, let's get into the initial setup screen. So let's go back here to our normal timekeeping mode. Okay. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is hold this adjust button down, and it gets into the setting mode. And this is where you select your home time zone. So in my case, it's the Mountain Time Zone, named after Denver. But again, if you scroll west and east on the map by using these buttons on the right side, select your time zone. Once you've got that selected, press the mode button, and here you can see this says DST for daylight saving time. So if you want daylight saving time to automatically be adjusted, you set that to auto. Your other options are just to have it off all the time or daylight saving time on all the time. I prefer auto. Next, I'll push that mode button. Here you can select either a 12-hour or 24-hour digital time display. Then you've got, here you can manually set the time if you need to: seconds, hours, minutes, the year, the month, and the date. So if you're having some problem with reception, you can manually set that, but the next time it receives radio control atomic information, it's going to override whatever your manual setting was. Then this one here. I like this option. Maybe you've noticed every time I press a button to change modes or to start and stop the timer or the stopwatch, there's a little bit of a beep. Well, this is the place where you can, if I push this button on the lower right, I can mute that. So I have the option of having that beep on or just have it be quiet. And when it's in the mute mode, you still get the hourly chime and sounds when the alarm comes on or when the countdown timer reaches an end. But other than that, you don't have those other beeps. But mute isn't a complete mute everything. It's just mute the buttons when you change modes and stuff like that. Okay, then you have right here LT3 or 1 are your options. What this means is when you're using the kind of Indiglow style backlight on this, you can either have that come on for 3 seconds every time you push the button or just 1.5 seconds. So this is where you select how long you want that to go. Then you've got the power save mode, so you can have that on or off. If you have power save enabled, what happens is at night, after 10 p.m., if the watch is left in darkness for more than an hour or so, the display will go blank in order to save battery power. So it's in power save mode, kind of a sleep mode. The way to wake it up from that sleep mode is to either put it in a well-lit area, or you can move the watch because it has a movement sensor inside. So give it a nice good jiggle, and that will probably wake it up from sleep mode. Or press any button on the watch, and that will also wake it up from sleep mode when you're utilizing the power save feature. And if I push the mode button one more time, then we get back to, we've scrolled around back to the same settings again. So I'll push adjust, and now I'm back to normal timekeeping. Now, when it comes to the tide and the moon thing, if this is pre-programmed, so it's supposed to show you the accurate time you're going to have high tide in your time zone. But if you think that's wrong, there is a way to manually adjust that, and I'm not going to show you that right now. But there is a way to change that setting if you think that that's not quite right. Now, there's another version of this watch that has, instead of this regular LCD with dark characters against a light background, there's sort of a reverse LCD version with lighter characters against a dark background. And so that's out there. I opted to get this one instead, just the regular LCD. But the module number for this one is 3193. And then for the reverse LCD, it's 3200. They have the exact same functions and features, those two modules. So you can download the instructions for that module if you want to dig deeper into this watch. This is obviously a plastic resin watch band, and you know, it'll hold up nicely. And I'm sure if I ever need to replace it, that probably won't be so much of a big deal. These are interesting. These kind of wings here underneath the watch band, so that'll make it a little bit more comfortable on your wrist, perhaps. Just making it a little more of a curved feel than having it. Otherwise, it's kind of a jagged thing going on there where the watch band has those funny angles on it. It's a fairly comfortable watch. I don't mind it at all. And again, it's tough. It's a G-shock watch, 200-meter water resist, so I think it'll hold up pretty well. It kind of looks like it's built like a tank, doesn't it? I like it. Let's take a look and see how much it weighs. I'll put it on the scale here. Okay, yeah, 69 grams. Okay, how does that compare to you know, like one of these G-shock watches? That one, okay, 66. How about this G-shock watch right here? How does that compare? Oh, let's zero out that scale one more time. Okay, that one is, okay, 55. Again, 69 on this one and 71 on that one. Okay, well, so, and then like, look at that beast. Okay, that one of the heavier G-shock watches. So yeah, they give you just a general idea of how comfortable that might be. Now, what about that built-in backlight? Actually, there's a button right here. This is a button on the front of the watch, and you press that, and there's your backlight. It also has, so you can see that button right there. Okay, it also has an automatic backlight. So what it does is it has a motion sensor inside, and as you angle the watch up as though you're just about to look at it, you activate the sensor that turns on that backlight. So, you know, if you're just wearing the watch and then you kind of turn it up as though you're going to look at it, it senses that angle and it turns on the backlight. In this case, for about 3 seconds, because that's how I set it to go. If you don't want that automatic backlight to come on, you can turn that off using this button here. So there's the light button. If I hold that button down, then that's how you toggle the automatic backlight on or off. And there's a little LCD rectangle up here on the display right there marked A.EL. So that's the automatic electroluminescent or whatever. So when I hold this down, that's going to come on again. And then if I don't want it on, I hold it down again and it's off again. So those little boxes there indicate a lot of things. This one here tells me if the snooze alarm is set to go. This one, if any of the other alarms are set to go. That shows me that the hourly signal is set to go. That shows me that the button is muted. You know, it doesn't beep every time I push a button. That tells me power save has been activated. And these right here show me the how much of a charge the battery has. If it's way down here, then it's basically discharged. But if it's way up here, that means it's a high charge. I've got a well-charged battery. And I don't need that much light to keep it well charged. It'll stay charged with just normal exposure to everyday lighting. If you work in an office or just around the house. If you wear long sleeves that cover the watch a lot of the time, or maybe you've got a jacket on and the watch is covered, obviously it's not going to be able to charge itself when the solar cells are covered. Or if it's covered and you've got that automatic backlight turned on, so every time you move your wrist inside your jacket, this light is coming on. That's also going to drain the battery a little bit faster than it would otherwise. So a couple things to keep in mind there. And as a final note, well, how much does it cost? In my case, I happened to hit a really good sale at Amazon a few months ago, and I got this watch for $59. It was amazing. I've seen them on eBay for about $85. I've seen them higher than that, but you know, maybe $85 would be a reasonable price to pay for this. And I'm not sure how that compares to the one that has the reverse LCD, probably comparable somewhere in the neighborhood of somewhere between $85 and $100 for that reverse LCD version. I should note, when I got this one, the battery was completely drained. It was kind of dead on arrival, as they say. I half expected that because it was a little bit of an older watch. So I figured whoever I was buying it from, even though it was new, I think they had maybe had it on the shelf for a long, long time. And so it came with a dead battery. So here's what I did. I stuck it under one of my very bright video lights. It was an LED light source, so it wasn't too hot, and I just stuck it right up against that light for about 20 minutes, and it started going. It was a low charge at that point, but it was enough that I could set up the the basic settings. It was no longer just a dead on arrival watch. It was running. And then the next day I stuck it out in the sun, just in the morning light, on the patio furniture for like an hour, and that charged it up really well. And then the next day I did that. I did that about 2 or 3 different days. And ever since then, that battery has remained on a full charge. If you've got a full charge, if it's on H there, it should be able to go for several months, even if there's no exposure to light at all, especially with the power save mode. You should be able to keep it running. So, but once it is at the high charge, as in my experience with this exact watch, it was able to stay at a high charge with just, again, exposure to normal indoor lighting in my normal life situations. I didn't have to set it out in direct sunlight anymore to get enough light for it. Just regular light was enough to take care of it. All right, now just to be thorough, I wanted to talk about, I was at Sam's Club just a few weeks ago, and I saw a watch that, well, the display looked an awful lot like the same watch. It's one of those maybe where Casio puts the same module in a different case and then sells it as a different watch, but it's actually the same module, same instructions, all that. And so I found this watch. It was more expensive. It was $140 even at the Sam's Club price. But then I found out it was actually a Gulfman watch, the GW7900. And it actually is a different module because the display, like I said, is exactly the same looking, except it does not have a separate button for the light. See, this one has a 5th button just for the light, whereas the Gulfman, the light is incorporated into the button that's up there on the upper right side. So it is a different module, and it costs more, and the case looks fancier. It's really nice. And the back of the watch, the part that goes up against your wrist, is made of titanium on that other watch, whereas with this one it's made of stainless steel. So I guess that's part of the reason why it looks fancier, and it has a titanium back, and so it costs more. So there's that out there if you want it. If you want to show off and get a watch that's fancier than mine, you can buy the Gulfman watch. And then one other feature that I thought was really nice is that you can have the local time and the world time displayed at the same time. So you go to your home screen and you tap that button on the upper right side, and then it'll show you in the top of the display, it'll show you the world time zone that you've selected, along with your local time down below. So it's a toggle between either showing the current day of the week and date of your home time zone, or showing the international, or that other world time zone up there in that top part of the display. So that's kind of a nice feature. I like being able to see the 2 time zones at once if you want to. All right, so with that, thanks for sticking with me for a rather detailed, thorough, in-depth review. And well, I do have some more watches I want to talk about, so I think we can maybe plan on doing that again for another upcoming episode of The Good Timekeeping Show. Again, thanks for watching.